In a world of cold and ice, where John Kerry and Barack Obama roam, witness the alien structures and trapped angels. You're listening to Our Different Take, episode 16. Hello there and welcome everyone to Our Different Take. My name is Brian, proud father of two awesome boys, Star Wars collector and Jedi podcaster. This is the way. And to my left is Matt. Welcome, Matt.
Hey, Brian. I can feel the Force. That's awesome that you're a Jedi. Super excited. Super excited for tonight's podcast. And to my left is Scott. Welcome, Scott.
Oh, thank you. I'm actually quite terrified to be here tonight because I feel woefully underprepared for the great task of trying to uncover Antarctica. So much down there, so many things to think about. But anyway, I am the semi-proud father of three wayward children whom I'm trying to educate in the ways of the world and who seem to have gone their own paths. But that's a whole different topic for a whole different time. So I shall come back now to Antarctica, where I still feel woefully underprepared for what should be an awesome podcast.
We're going to have fun.
It will be. First things first, have you guys watched the first episode of The Mandalorian?
Yes.
I have not.
The new season?
Yeah.
Oh, I thought you meant the very first episode. Yes.
No, the new season. You haven't watched the first episode of the new season? Oh, you guys are both fired.
Here's the thing, man. I think
Fired.
I think it's a really cool concept. It wasn't
Fired.
not quite dark enough for me. A little too Disney. Like to see a little more gore and some darkness.
Oh, man.
It's kind of where I like to live, though. So
You're out of here.
yeah, I know.
Hang up. You're done with the podcast.
Fine.
Sheesh. Tough crowd.
Scott, you?
No.
Well,
No, I have no reason for saying what I'm saying either. I just haven't done
Okay.
squat.
I guess we won't talk about that then.
I mean, you can talk about it. We just
No.
don't know what you're saying.
Yeah, that's no fun. Might as well be talking about Japanese language with you guys. Be the same thing.
Now that's right
Hey.
up my alley. Little
Como
Mandarin.
arigato, Mr. Roboto.
That's right.
Oh. I don't know. I don't know any Japanese other than that.
That was good,
And I
though.
don't even know if that's Japanese.
It's kind of it's sort of a Japanese inflection. Oh.
Not to offend any of our Japanese
No,
listeners.
please don't hate us. We love you.
Okay.
We've just been kicked out of Japan.
Oh, maybe China, but not Japan. They love us.
You don't even have a download in Japan or anything yet. Taiwan we do, not Japan.
Right
Well,
on,
maybe
that's cool.
We're gonna have a download in Japan because of that, probably.
Clickbait. All right. So anyway, this week we're going to talk about all the conspiracies, or a lot of the conspiracies, that have to deal with Antarctica. Some you might have heard about, some you might have never heard about. But we'll put links up in our website show notes so you can kind of see where we got a lot of our information. Some are pretty interesting. Some might be far-fetched, but you be the judge. We're going to go over it anyway. So let's start off with something pretty simple, and that's called Google Earth. Have you guys been on Google Earth before?
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
Many times, yeah.
It's a cool program.
I like to look at all the concentration camps in North Korea.
They don't block those out or anything?
No, they're just right there for everybody to see.
That's sad.
Uh-huh.
It's sad. Well, one thing that some people do are they use Google Earth to look at Antarctica. And one thing they think they've found is a large complex in Antarctica. Now, In the link that we're going to put on the website, there's coordinates and everything, so you can look at it yourself. But when you look at it, they say this iceberg or this big piece of ice looks like it was built with purpose. Like there's an entryway into this building. There's lots of features that are like 90-degree angles, like certain angles of the ice that look like it's not random. Like there are really corners to this building and it has a purpose to it. There's some dark features around it that looks like it could be small enough to be vehicles. And if you look at the color of this thing, it doesn't look like the snow. It's like a darker concrete color. So it stands out from the rest of the area because it looks
Interesting.
like a building.
But there's
So
no permanent building supposedly in Antarctica, correct?
correct.
Right.
Correct. They said that they're not allowed to leave anything permanent there. They have to yank up everything and take it with them, when they leave.
I
So,
think actually, I don't know how recent that is, but I know the Russians left a lot of stuff there, and different expeditions over the years have also left things. Maybe that's a newer thing.
well, they might have left it there because they were rushing to get out because the bad weather was coming.
Well, there we go. No more Russia for us. Okay, no more Japan. Okay.
Yeah, I didn't do that in a Russian accent, though.
Fair enough. Fair enough, comrade. Touche.
So, so yeah, that's probably pretty good. There's also fairly close. Well, I don't want to say if it's fairly close. There's an piece of ice that looks like an outline of a ship. Now that ship measures 400 feet long, and it looks like it's sitting off the coast of Antarctica about 100 miles. So there's nothing else around it. So
Really?
some people think this ship could be part of an escape plan for the world's elite in the event of emergency, or it could be an alien ship, or the ship is from a Nazi base on Antarctica. But
That
this
one,
baby's offshore about 100 miles and it's huge. It's like 400 feet long, and
Really?
it does kind of look like a ship.
I hear these things like talking about what you just said as an escape plan for the world's elite. Where are they going to go? What are they going to escape from, and where are they going to escape to? And on a frozen ship,
I,
100
I agree. Like
miles.
maybe they just fly out in their really expensive helicopters, or like maybe they have airplanes or super yachts or something. But like, I mean, it could be something. Maybe it's just an airstrip. Who knows?
It could be. And I would think they would be escaping to Antarctica and not have a ship in Antarctica as part of an escape plan.
The other thing that I'm curious about is, I mean, sometimes, and I haven't seen this picture. Sorry, but sometimes, icebergs look very different from one another. The color of the ice is different. Sometimes it's a really like a deep blue, and sometimes it's more of a white color. Sometimes it's really dirty from years of being exposed to the air, um, and then they roll over. But that's interesting that it's just 400 feet long, and you said it's a rectangle.
No, it looks like if you take a cruise ship
Mhm.
and you like lay it on its side,
Yeah.
that's what it looks like.
Maybe it's a cruise ship that somebody laid on its side.
Wow,
Well,
man.
your
That's
powers of deduction. Once again, I'm shocked.
that's our remote viewing master right there. The remote viewed the obvious.
Too funny.
Uh, could be. It could be. But anyway, you're going to want to take a look at that building uh, and see what you think too.
Yeah.
Again, if you're looking at some of this stuff and you want to see it, you're going to see what you think out of this.
Yeah, that's true.
If you're looking at it like, well, that's really probably not what it is, because I can see both ways when I look at the picture. I'm like, that's kind of cool. But at the same time, it doesn't look like a huge building sitting out in the middle of Antarctica
Right.
because the building's freaking huge, gigantic.
Huh. Interesting.
And the little black dots around it, you can't really tell what it is, even if you zoom in. So I don't know if it could be like a vehicle or it could be a whale. Or
A
not a
whale.
whale.
Really?
You know, one thing I find interesting about that is you can go to Google Earth and you can pull up your house on there. And I used to look at mine when we were trying to sell our house. You could see the trampoline in my backyard. You could tell what kind of cars were in my driveway. You
Right.
could tell what kind of roof was on my house. Matter of fact, that's how the insurance guy said that they estimated the price of insurance was. They just got on Google Earth and looked at my house, and they could
Really?
tell. Yeah, they could tell what kind of a house it was, what kind of roof it was, and they could tell what it was going to cost to insure it. So with that, with the kind of detail that's available there, I do find it interesting that when you try to look at this stuff down in Antarctica, it's like, I don't know, it could be a car, it could be a cruise ship on its side, could be a whale. Fuck, I don't know. I mean, sorry, I shouldn't have said that. You have to edit that out, huh?
I think
No,
we're rated for fuckity fuckaroo. You can just say
Okay,
whatever you
well,
want.
okay,
Yeah,
yeah,
we
sorry.
are. We
yeah,
are.
we're good.
You're
Oh,
clear.
okay. But yeah, I think it's interesting that, you know, you can pull up that level of detail. You can almost see a license plate from space on some of those things. But in other places, it's like, yeah, we're gonna just kind of, you know, pixelate it and make you guess.
I
Well,
think they're using the same cameras that everyone else uses to record UFOs and Bigfoot. I'm pretty sure it's the same thing.
that might be true. Actually,
Yeah.
there's
It's
there's
probably
probably
is.
something to that. Although I know there's patches that are, you know, blocked out on purpose. If there's a military base or something that's high security, Google always tries to, um, you know, blur it out or completely. It just completely disappears. We've seen that many times before. But you know, maybe it's that they're, you know, satellite time's expensive, and they just figure there's nothing really to see in Antarctica, so they just do uh, scans that are not as in depth, so they can cover more land and just patch it in.
Yeah,
Very well
no,
could be.
nah,
No, you don't think so?
nah, nah,
Not nearly as much fun.
no, I can't.
Well,
No.
in March 2018, there was a YouTube channel that claimed that Google knows some kind of secrets about Antarctica because he would look up certain things and then look back later on, and then it was either disappeared or wasn't there anymore.
Really?
Right. And so he thinks that there's a Google employee who is, excuse me, quote unquote rebellious, that wants to reveal conspiracies to us. So what happens sometimes is when you are hovering over a certain feature on Google Earth, there's a red cross that appears. So he thinks this is a Google employee wants us to see whatever's there if a red cross appears where you're looking. I haven't tested that yet, but check
Well,
it out.
I guess we're headed to Antarctica.
You know, I think there's a Google Mars and a Google Moon too, isn't there?
Yeah.
So I was watching a different show on this, so it didn't have anything to do with Antarctica other than just kind of what we're talking about right now, where the guy was looking at Google Mars and he pulled something up and he was just looking at it and the way he was, you know, analyzing it. Anyway, it turns out that they had taken something off of Mars, like they'd taken an area up there and they had like covered it up. Like there was something that they didn't want us to see, and they took an area that was already on there and then just like cut and pasted it.
Hmm.
I'm not saying this very well. They took an area that you could clearly see on there,
Right.
and then they moved it over to a different area.
Interesting.
And like, so you could see they did all of the little analysis and everything. And it's like, clearly they had taken something that was up there and they had like turned the direction of it a little bit, but it was the same dimensions. It was the same shape, the same size, everything. And they had moved it. And so it's like, why would they have done that? Some obscure thing on Mars. Why would they have done that? And so you kind of got to wonder if they're going to go and do stuff like that on Google Mars,
Right.
that surely they would also do that kind of stuff in Antarctica, where it can't be verified. You can't just like go there, right? You can't just, I want to find out what this is myself, and so I'm going to take a little trip down to Antarctica and I'm going to go look at it. You can't do
Right.
that.
Right.
So it's like they're setting these conspiracy theories. They're setting them up because they know that you can't verify any of this stuff.
Right. That makes good sense.
Makes for a good podcast.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I suspect, and of course, I'm always a party pooper, but I suspect that when you look at parts of Google Earth and they say you're looking at Antarctica or some remote region, you'll see parts that are like lighter, darker, cut in,
Yeah.
from different passes. I'm sure that satellites have made, and probably not the same satellites, or maybe at a different time of
Yeah.
the year. Maybe there's some of that, and maybe, and it wouldn't surprise me at all if some of that data from like Google Mars was corrupted, and they were like, oh, just paste a section from 32B on there and we'll call it good, or something like that. I mean, it doesn't necessarily have to be an alien base. It could just be somebody fucked up.
Right. They in this particular thing, they had reached out to NASA and they said, "What's the deal here? What's going on with your pictures? Why has this been cut and pasted here?" And they didn't receive a response. You would think that if something like that was going on, that the people responsible for taking the pictures would say, sometimes it gets corrupted and we just kind of guess. Um, they didn't do that. They just didn't answer. So
Well,
again, they feed into the conspiracies by
right.
the way that they answer or that they don't answer. They feed into it. So whether or not, it very well could just be what you said. It could be nothing, but they don't address it.
Well, I can neither confirm or deny anything that you've said, but NASA is paying me to debunk all of these things we talk
NASA's paying you. Where's our cut? Where's our cut?
Shh, you'll
You're
get
getting
shares.
crap. All right. Well, then let's talk about this then. What about the secret Nazi base that is currently in Antarctica, which is there? So Nazis launched an expedition to Antarctica
Right.
about 1938, which that part's true, right? And they had several military and scientific ships that went down there.
Right.
They say that the Nazis discovered several underground caves and rivers, converted them into a secret city. Some people say also, if you have a submarine, there's certain ways to navigate underneath our Antarctica, like highways, quote unquote, where you have to know where you're going, but it'll take you to the secret city. People speculate that Hitler fled here after losing the war because he was seen in Argentina, right?
Right.
Or he left
That's what they say.
Antarctica to go to Argentina because the people in Antarctica didn't want to have anything to do with him anymore. So they think he left Antarctica and went to Argentina and then lived out his life there. But there is a secret Nazi city underneath Antarctica as we speak.
You would think that if that was the case, that after 75 or 100 years, that maybe there would be some bigger evidence of, cities. I mean, you'd have to supply the city, right?
One would think.
You'd run out of supplies at some point in time. So there'd be traffic going to and from there. The people would have to come out to get sunlight at some point in time. They'd have to grow stuff that, how would all of that happen?
Good point.
Well, I heard also, and it wasn't related to the Nazi base, but it was the other guy on Gaia that I was listening to.
Yeah.
That said, underneath the ice, actually Antarctica is the most volcanic area of the entire Earth. So underneath that, there are lakes of uh, natural water, not ice, not salt water,
Mm-hmm.
and land and dirt that is like the most rich out of anywhere.
Really
So in
interesting.
in theory, you could probably figure out some way to get sunlight down there. At some if you can make a Nazi base underneath Antarctica, you can probably figure out how to get sunlight down there, and you can grow all your potatoes or whatever the Nazis ate. They can
Nazi
grow
taters.
Nazi taters,
Yeah,
them tater
I
tots.
think they got a couple songs about that. They're Nazi taters. Yeah.
Und eins, und taters.
There goes Germany.
Oh, there goes.
Damn, Brian. You're taking
I got to
everybody
make a
away
list
from
of
They're all going to hate
how
you.
many people we have to apologize
I
to.
wonder how many warrants
Yeah.
you're going to have out for your arrest.
So I mean, but even there, wouldn't you think that after? I mean, I'm just thinking like the Amish, right? Even the Amish that have these tight little communities that don't seem to need technology. You still have one every once in a while who's like, you know what? I don't want to be an Amish dude anymore. I want out of here.
Right.
Wouldn't there be some like Nazis that are like, you know what? I grew up under the ice in Antarctica, and I don't want to do that anymore, and so I'm going to come up and live amongst the rest of the people, and then they would be kind of telling their stories, but you don't even hear that in the conspiracy theory circles. This doesn't happen. So it's like if there's people doing it, you'd think that somebody would have come out at some point in time and said, "Oh yeah, we went down there. It was really groovy, man. We had like this, whatever." You've not heard it though. I
Groovy.
mean, hey, don't make fun of my groovy, man.
Sorry.
That's
Sorry.
good.
Well, maybe the people that down there don't know there's another world out. Maybe the propaganda they've got going down there thinks they're the only ones left on Earth, and if they leave, there's
Maybe not.
zombies and rabid whales out there.
Huh?
Rab-
Yeah. Well, I never thought about the rabid whales. That's yeah.
That's why you don't see anyone come out, because who wants to mess with the rabid whale? It's horrible.
That's a good
it.
point.
Yeah,
Mhm.
definitely.
Anyway,
Okay, I stand corrected. I'm sure that one's true.
yeah,
then.
take that.
Vicious
You got anything
narwhal.
else to say?
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
I heard
Well-
somebody actually debunking that one, talking about how there's no way that the initial German submarines could have gotten there in the first place.
No, I
Because-
think they did actually. There's a couple of wrecks there. There's a couple of German subs that were scuttled at the end of World War II that had already been there, and that wreckage has been found. So,
Really?
Yep.
Where was it found?
I mean, Antarctica. I don't know where. Like,
Oh, okay. What he was saying, and maybe we're talking about something. Maybe we're talking about the same thing. Maybe we're not. I don't know. But he was saying that to get to these like places where supposedly there's these underground cities, you would have had to go through a sheet of ice that would have been like I don't know, several miles thick. Not thick, but several miles
I see what you're
long.
talking about. Okay.
And the German subs that they had at that time that they went down to Antarctica were not true subs. They were the kind that would just go right, they would like surface skim. And so they had like a little periscope that would have had to been above water to navigate. And so it wouldn't have been able to go under the ice, at least not for the amount of miles that it would have taken to get in there.
Right.
And again, this is some dude trying to debunk the thing, so maybe he's full of crap too. But that's what he was saying is that there's no way that the German subs at that time could have gotten down there. Now, what the one thing we talked about on our last podcast though was the UFOs,
Right.
that they had been working on, and those very, very possibly could have gotten underneath the ice into a city. And if there really is the technology to be able to take those things and fly them to another planet, which has been hypothesized, then I could see where that could have actually been a livable space. Antarctica would be like a airstrip at that point. So you go there, and then from there you can go fly to Mars or wherever you're trying to go,
Right.
because those craft apparently could go underneath the water. They could actually come up out of the water and attack.
I mean, if they can go into space, they can go in water.
Right, right.
You would think.
So I could actually buy that, but if the Germans were going down there to set up some secret Nazi base using the traditional subs that were available in 1938, I don't see that they set up a city and stayed there.
Right. I agree with
And
that. Who'd want to?
Right,
right.
right.
2019, March 5th, 2019, the Sun reported that, again,
Whose
here,
son?
Google Earth, the Sun, some newspaper somewhere.
The son of Hitler.
Yeah. I think it's in, it's in Britain. It's called the Sun.
Oh yeah, yeah. It's a tabloid, right?
Sure. Google Earth uncovers Nazi U-boat hidden under Antarctica's melting ice. Conspiracy theorist claims. It says that there's a mysterious 310-foot structure emerging from the ice using Google Earth. And what it basically, when you look at, we'll put the link in the show notes as well. But when you see this picture, a U-boat, when you're looking at a U-boat from the top, it basically looks like the shape of a regular boat.
Right.
And that's what this looks like in Google Earth. A U-boat surfacing through the ice cap.
Interesting.
Yeah. So, again, it looks like, I don't know if you could tell it's a U-boat or not. I don't know. But anyway, they say it's a U-boat that's surfacing through a
boat-like structure.
Ice. Yeah.
Interesting.
And I can buy that.
Yeah.
I can buy that they headed down there to kind of explore, to find a place that they could set up shop for a while, and then we had a couple of wrecks, and all of a sudden, what do we do with it now? Well, we'll just leave it there and go back to one of the other vessels or whatever.
Yeah, who's going to find it, right?
Right. That to me makes perfect sense.
Yeah. Interesting. So there could be some truth to that where the Nazis were down there, but if they have underground caves and secret cities is another deal.
Well, there's been so much talk about all the world leaders that have gone down and to Antarctica, and it's so hush hush. The Pope, everybody else, like something's up, something's
right.
Done. Yeah,
We're going to talk about that in a little bit.
Well, did you hear about that thing that had happened? Do y'all have one of those eye fits on your? Do you use one of those for your?
What is it?
On your wrist?
I got an eye fit.
Oh, Fitbit. Fitbit.
Like
what am I talking about? iFit's
fax machine for your wrist. What is that?
Fax machine for your wrist. What is this, Dick Tracy? The Fitbit. Those.
I got an Apple Watch.
Yeah, I have an Apple Watch.
Well, Fitbit they did a thing several years ago, and they were all like, just to show everybody where people are using the Fitbit.
Right.
And they had just like little streaks of where, people were doing it. And you could see where the most people were using it by the density of the streak on the globe map. Anyway, it turns out that by doing so, they accidentally revealed a secret military base down in Antarctica.
That's awesome.
Some of the people down there were wearing the Fitbits, and they were jogging or whatever. Yeah. And so you could see the patterns of where they had been. And the military scrambled real quick and said, hey, you guys need to stop wearing these Fitbits. And but by then it was already out that there was a secret military base down there that had just been outed.
I guess next time they'll use a quality product that protects your secrecy, like Apple.
Right. Wow. That's cool. That's very cool.
Yeah, that's funny.
Well, the next part is probably not as crazy as what we just talked about, but there were 3 pyramids discovered in Antarctica in 2016.
I did read about that.
Yeah. Pyramids measured over 1,220 meters, making them 10 times the height of the Great Pyramid of Giza. Again,
So
theorists say that they were built by someone that lived there over 100 million years ago.
100 million years. So were these things discovered by somebody on Google Earth, or were they discovered by people that
Hmm.
would
I don't have
have
the answer to that one.
credibility with the world at large?
I don't
I have
think they're
seen
Google Earth.
pictures, and I actually saw a video that a guy posted from the back of a C-130 that he took from his phone, and you can see the three pyramids. It's interesting. What's interesting about them is, it's snow covered, of course, but you can see them, and all three of them look to line up perfectly. And they were flying over with the back door open in a C-130. Very interesting. About a minute and a minute and a half long. The video was, but that's all it showed was the three pyramids.
Interesting. Is that on YouTube?
Yep.
Were they completely covered in snow where it might look like a pyramid,
See,
or could
and
you actually see?
no, that's what and that's what I. All I saw was three snow-capped pyramid kind of shaped, what looked to me to be mountains. But there's other pyramids too. And don't get me wrong, I'm a big fan of Linda Moulton Howe's work. But I do think she pretty much buys into everything. Although, a lot of the stuff she comes up with is super interesting. But the pyramids that she talked about up in Alaska, have you guys heard about that?
I have not.
Nope.
Now that's interesting. There was a gentleman whose dad was an electrician for the military, and his dad had told him that he'd been working on a project with some pyramids that they had found buried in Alaska, and they were
Buried.
producing electricity, and the military was keen to figure out how in the hell that was working. But it kind of goes to the theory that there's more than just the three pyramids in Egypt. There's pyramids over in China that are covered with dirt that they've found now that are gigantic, way bigger than the Great Pyramids. There's pyramids rumored to be in Alaska, and then the ones in Antarctica. They're all over the world.
Interesting.
But they've supposedly found them on Mars as well.
I mean, maybe.
Yeah. Well, also, way back in time, apparently Antarctica was over where like Australia is now. So some of these pyramids could have been built before Antarctica commuted over to where it is now, even.
Interesting thought.
Yeah. It'd be easier to build a pyramid in warmer weather than down there, for sure.
Got to be something cool to see. People like heads of state don't just leave home and go to the middle of nowhere for nothing. Got to be something really next level cool, or they would just send somebody.
Right. They wouldn't just go visit there.
Right.
It'd be crazy.
Have to be something that everybody in the club was talking about.
Right.
It's my opinion.
No, I would agree. We'll get into that here in a little bit. Actually, there's a lot to that.
Cool.
So some people also say that Atlantis is under Antarctica. So this professor named Charles Hapgood in the 1950s, he suggested that Antarctica was home to some undiscovered civilization, what he called it, and he believed it was Atlantis. In 1995, another author named Graham Hancock wrote a book called Fingerprints of the Gods, and he believed that people of Atlantis had migrated from Antarctica, and they founded the Aztec, Mayan, and Egyptian empires. So these people actually think that underneath Antarctica is the city of Atlantis. And the Atlanteans, is that what you call them? Atlanteans?
Yeah. That.
Atlanteans pretty much founded Aztec, Mayan, and the Egyptian empires. So again, if they're founding those, it makes more sense if Antarctica is over near Australia,
right,
rather than where it is now. That'd be a long way to go from there to Egypt.
Well, the argument of um, ancient civilizations having high technology, I think, is pretty valid. To be honest with you, nobody knows how the pyramids were made, right? And I was actually watching a show on YouTube. This was several weeks ago about the giant basalt um, sarcophagus sarcophagi, multiple sarcophaguses. There's a
Hmm.
bunch under the Sphinx. They don't know how they got in there because they weigh 250 tons, some of them, and they're
Hmm.
all carved out of the same piece of basalt. The corners, the edges, everything, right, is perfect. There's something to it, and there was, I, I would say, uh, I feel very sure that there was some sort of civilization in our ancient past that had the technologies that we have today, and probably other technologies very different from what we had that we just haven't discovered yet.
Yeah,
Do
I
you think
think
the technologies would allow them to go from where they're at over the ocean to Africa?
Maybe, and maybe uh, maybe it's just a matter of you know uh, breaking down molecules and sending them to another place and putting them back together. And maybe they figured it out,
Oh, like Star Trek.
like Star Trek.
hmm,
You know,
Scott, what do you think?
I think surely if they've got the technology to be able to carve out a 250-ton sarcophagus out of basalt on the planet, then and the technology to be able
if
to
they
build
got
the
pyramids
that are producing
with
electricity,
the precision that
what's
they
the
did,
electricity
with the
for?
weight that they
right?
did, and the time that they did.
Right, and maybe that's a
Surely
means of
they
transportation in and of
also have the
itself,
ability to be
Yeah.
or maybe that's a means of a vehicle that runs on, and just like Tesla said, you could put electricity right through the air. You don't
Yeah.
need lines to transmit it. Maybe there's a vehicle that just runs on the electricity and goes from place to place, which would make sense for in South America where they have the Nazca lines in Peru, uh,
Mm-hmm.
and drawings that actually look like spacemen in aircraft from thousands of years ago. I mean, it all kind of comes together, and you have to say, like legitimate, like in the absence of absolute proof, there sure is a lot of evidence.
Right. Well, those Nazca lines, I mean, that's the huge evidence as far as I'm concerned. When you see
Yeah,
those things, when you're looking at them from the ground, they're nothing. But when you get up in space and you look at them, it's like it's almost like an airport. You know how the lights at the airport are kind of
Yeah.
direct you to the runway. It's almost like one of those. It's like
right.
a landmark that was put there for a specific purpose of directing some sort of an aircraft. But what kind of an aircraft would you have had? Who knows how many years ago? 20,000 years ago?
Right.
I mean, supposedly none, right? We supposedly, if you go back to the Darwinian theory of evolution, we were still kind of, you know, Cro-Magnon man or whatever back then, and certainly not flying.
But maybe we were Cro-Magnon, or maybe we were very primitive. But if you look at something like what was the guy's name that wrote Chariots of the Gods? Eric von Daniken, uh, who his theory was we were just visited, and beings with high technology showed up and stayed for a while, or showed up, left, and then came back, or many different theories on that. But I think there's probably something to that. And I know this is going to win me a lot of friends.
Hmm.
Um, I've often thought to myself quietly, so as not to offend everyone, like, maybe Jesus was an alien. Who knows, right? That whole scenario about beating death and going up to heaven and all that stuff, man, it sure does sound like a higher level being to me, which I think God is, right? And he's definitely not from here, so I guess that makes him an alien. And I don't know, it just plays out in my mind, miracles and things that astound and amaze people, uh,
Yeah.
and being worshipped. Uh, you know, it just it kind of plays in.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah. Could be. another subject for a different podcast.
I guess so.
That's a deep subject right there.
But I guess this is kind of related, but kind of not. But we're talking about the Nazca lines down in Peru. Did you hear that discovery they found a couple of decades ago over in, I think it was Turkey, where some guy was trying to add on to his house, and so he knocked a wall out, and then in the process of knocking the wall out, he's like, "Well, wait a minute, there's a cavern behind my house." And so he started excavating the cavern, and it turned out to be this underground bunch of tunnels and rooms and airways and uh, stoves, like not the kind of stoves that we would use today, but something that would have been used a long time ago. It was enough. It was a big enough bunch of caverns to be able to fit like 50,000 people
Holy shit.
Holy moly!
underground, and it was constructed with in such a way that doors could be closed to keep invaders out, and that air would be able to still move freely in there so that they wouldn't suffocate. Whoever did this with some knowledge.
Right.
Whoever did this knew what they were doing and what was going to be required to be able to keep people alive, and a whole lot of people alive. Just like there's obviously there was some kind of a civilization here prior to us.
Right.
You know, because if this was not something that could have been done by a bunch of people with picks and shovels. I mean, this was some serious underground excavation, and I don't know, just
The same kind of people that might be able to make a perfectly carved right angle in the corner of a giant basalt sarcophagus, maybe.
Sure.
or
Yeah.
Easter Island, those things that are buried, what, 25, 35 feet deep, those
Yeah.
big old statues. How would they have made those things in the first place, and then how would they have gotten them buried the way they did? Who knows?
Yeah, it's crazy,
But
huh?
all of these things are just giant Pandora's box, each one of them. But then when you put them all together, it's like there's strong, strong, strong evidence that we are not the only people that have ever lived here.
Right. And I think a lot of people are coming around to that idea, and it's being driven. It's information driven, right? People tune into YouTube, people read things and on the internet, and it kind of opens your eyes. And then, especially for me, because I'm a super nerd, like I end up daydreaming about that stuff and just kind of letting my mind wander and thinking, man, where did that stuff come from? And who the hell has the technology to do that if we don't have it today? And it's 3,000 or 4,000 years old. How in the world did they do that? Very interesting.
Yeah.
Well, they must have been bored. I mean, so why would you fly all the way to Earth and be like, I'm just going to throw statues in the ground and then just leave?
I don't know.
Is that like pranking? Are they pranking us?
Maybe Mars needs women. Who knows?
You're like, get a load of this. Look what we did today.
Check out my statue. Oh dear. I don't know, man.
All right. Well, a couple more things real quick. They found 2 craters in Antarctica that are entrances to a secret UFO base. Okay. There's 2 craters along the coast. They go deep below the surface, actually into the permafrost, and they look as if something had actually dug them. There are pictures, and it kind of looks like a cave entrance, actually, it could be a cave. But these are thought to be entrances to, again, a secret government facility, alien base, maybe the Nazi base. Scott Waring, he's a UFO conspiracy theorist. He claims to have spotted the UFO in an image that he viewed on Google Earth. Here we go with Google Earth again.
Man, those guys are messing everything up for people.
They are. But get this, the image is no longer visible because Google edited the image. Quote unquote. Here's his quote. I was looking over an island I don't know what nationality he is, so I can't do an accent on this one. So I'm just gonna have to read it.
Do German.
I was looking over the island
That's so perfect.
in
Keep
the
going.
Antarctic region.
I love it. I love it.
When I came across a craft. Okay, I'm gonna stop.
Please don't. That's so good.
The triangle craft had a hump in the middle and a thunder edge with 3 sides. It looks like metallic and is sitting in an area which appears to be at the location on the ancient alien vase. This craft was revealed after warm years had melted the ice, and they now reveal the secret craft below. Quote unquote.
That was so awesome. That's great.
I don't even know what I just read.
I don't even know what to say. I think I've seen the pictures. I'm pretty sure I've seen those pictures, and a couple of different theories about hot springs and volcanic activity and things like that. But what better place to put a base than something that was hollowed out for you by steam or hot springs or volcanic activity? And honestly, why else would Google redact a picture if it wasn't for national security? It's the only thing that can make them do it. The Gov can just say, hey, man, national security. They've probably been flying all kinds of craft down there for years. It's a great place to fly because there's not a fucking soul around to see it. And Area 51 doesn't work. And everywhere they go, people hound them to death. They just probably figured they'd go to the most godforsaken place on the planet and fly planes. Really?
True.
If y'all ever read from Steve Quayle, have you ever read Steve Quayle's website?
No.
Have you seen that?
Mm-mm.
Steve Quayle's kind of a religious conspiracy theorist. He's got a ton of interesting stuff, and a lot of it's just way out there. But he's kind of like the old Drudge Report, where they put up little headlines of stuff every day.
Yeah.
Steve Quayle does that too, but again, it's all kind of it's faith based sort of. Anyway, he's got a lot on Antarctica too. He thinks that Antarctica may have some sort of a wormhole connection to Mars and to other parts of the universe.
That is sweet.
That there's something down there that you could actually teleport to other parts of the solar system simply by going to Antarctica.
That would bring the Pope for sure. I'm pretty sure if I were a world leader, I'd show up for that. Be like, hey man, you can put your hand through it and grab a handful of Mars rocks and bring them back or whatever. I would definitely show up for that.
Yeah,
that would be awesome. Actually,
that's probably a great TV show. We should pitch that to somebody.
Yeah, let's call it Stargate.
Traveling.
Yeah,
Stargate.
Don't be an asshole.
Oh, wait.
It would have to have like the Pope in the title, though.
I'm not even going there, dude. Nope.
Okay, I was just leaving that. I was just being silent for a minute to see if you guys said something.
Pope on a rope. I don't know. I can't think of anything. I'm out.
Pope on a boat.
I don't. Let's not go down this road, Brian.
Okay, let's go. Let's hit this
next.
Okay, so this one I think is the most interesting, which could be a podcast all in itself because there's so much to it, and I think we're going to barely skim the surface with this one. But here we go. So, John Kerry. Do you remember John Kerry?
Yeah.
What was he?
John Kerry was in Vietnam.
Correct.
Yeah, but he was Secretary of State, right?
Yeah, he was on a boat in Vietnam, I think.
He was on a boat in Vietnam.
PT boat.
Well, this has to do with Antarctica and not Vietnam. But he visited Antarctica in 2016. Obama again made a secret trip in 2016 as well, and in 2016, like you mentioned before, Matt.
Yeah.
The first Orthodox leader in the world, not the first Orthodox leader in the world, but the first one to visit Antarctica.
Mm-hmm.
If you look in the trend, when a president leaves office, right, he transitions out, and there's usually a transition team.
Right.
Well, in Obama's notes on the actual website in 2016, he added a ton of people to a transition team as he was leaving office. And quote, it says there's over 200 entities that met several times. Now it does say entities. So keep that in mind when we go into talking about some of this stuff a little bit later. Okay.
Yeah.
So John Kerry went to Antarctica. He arrived in Antarctica, got on a plane, took a 3-hour flight to a research station that the U.S. government operates. So he's landing there. He's flying 3 hours to get to the edge of the South Pole. Okay. Now, here's the interesting part. According to the book of Enoch, which is a book that's not in the Bible, but what did you say, Scott, earlier
I
about the
think
book of Enoch?
I think it's one of those books that's canonized in only one place in the world. I think the Ethiopian Bible has it canonized, but it's one that basically has been rejected by most Orthodox religion.
Right.
But it was apparently found in Ethiopia and is part of that Bible.
Okay. Well, part of that in the book of Enoch, and I don't have the direct quote for this part, but it says there were 200 fallen angels that are locked into the abyss. So you've got 200 fallen angels in the book of Enoch. Obama says that he's talking with 200 entities, and he's going to Antarctica to talk to them. So here where we come in is where these 200 angels, 200 fallen angels, are locked into the abyss, which is, drum roll, Antarctica. Okay. So the verse in the book of Enoch, which is Enoch 18, 1-6, it says, quote, I went towards the south, and it was burning day and night, where there were 7 mountains of precious stones, 3 towards the east and 3 towards the south. So what they think is this describes Antarctica in the summer, which has 24 hours of daylight, and there's an exact mountain range that matches that in Antarctica. So they think there's all the fallen angels that have been imprisoned by God are alive in Antarctica, which has to do something with Obama, John Kerry, and that Orthodox leader all visiting down there, because those angels were put down there for a certain amount of time, and apparently that time's coming pretty quick to be up.
That's interesting. I how surreal would that be to be the leader of the free world, walk down into the middle of a mountain in Antarctica, and maybe there's a clear, transparent cover over this area with 200 demons in it, and have a
Right?
conversation. How interesting and scary would that be?
Yeah.
Have
Yeah, they
either
think there's a massive deep object somewhere in Antarctica, which is those fallen angels. And why else would, like you were saying earlier, why in the world would Obama, John Kerry, and a guy like the Pope visit Antarctica?
And there've been a lot more too.
Yeah, they're not petting the penguins and the whales.
Probably not. No. Maybe
Yeah.
they're, talking to 200 demons next to a jewel mountain.
or
Could be.
maybe Epstein had a base down there?
Jeez.
I don't know. I
And you
just thinking out loud. I don't know.
don't hold back, man. That's cool. Right on.
Okay, I just found the title of this podcast.
That's so perfect. I love it.
That is going to be the
That is
title.
irreverent. Yes, absolutely.
Right.
That's
So,
awesome. It fits.
Yeah.
have either of you read the Book of Enoch or any of it?
I've read parts of it. Yeah, I actually just kind of, and maybe this sounds stupid. I just kind of discovered it maybe 6 months ago when I was researching some stuff on demonology and things like that, and I think it's fascinating.
Yeah,
I've never
I
read
agree.
it, but I'm going to now.
To me, it's more. To me, it doesn't describe Antarctica. It describes heaven and hell and Hades, and
Mhm.
it doesn't. There may be these may be physical things, physical places that it's describing, but it's definitely, to me, allegorical book. It's I don't think they're talking about Antarctica.
But it'd be
Could be
sweet if they
wrong.
were. That'd be sweet.
Yeah, it would be cool. It would be cool if they were. It would be. But
Yeah.
yeah, it's really descriptive, isn't it? Though I mean, the
Yeah.
stuff that they talk about, it goes into some pretty amazing detail.
Yeah, and it
Uh,
doesn't. To me, it doesn't sound like any of the other books of the Bible, though, at all.
to me, it sounds like Revelation.
Kind of, which is my favorite, actually. Uh, I love the Book of Revelation.
Yeah, to me, it was very much like the Book of Revelation. It talks about a lot of the same stuff. Like it talks about the tree of life
Mhm.
and what the tree of life looks like, and where it is, and where it grows, and yeah, it talks about all kinds of interesting things in there.
Right, and I think you're right. Probably mostly allegorical, but man, it'd be cool if that was down in Antarctica, though.
Yeah.
Wouldn't that be crazy?
Yeah,
Well,
I mean,
would be
why
crazy.
else?
It would be crazy if John Kerry was the one that was chosen to release the fallen angels. I mean, why?
That
Why
makes me
John
feel
Kerry?
like the fallen angels are dumber than we.
Right? I mean,
I, I have a feeling angels are anything but dumb. I don't think they can die. They've probably been around for a really long time. Like they're not dumb.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
I can
I'm
only
sure they're
speak
not.
one language, although I'm no rocket scientist, so I can't really say anything. But I have a feeling that most, I believe that there are spirits like ghosts. I firmly believe there are demons. I've experienced that, and I think demons are downright evil and nasty and unsavory. But boy, they're definitely not dumb.
Right.
yeah.
Cunning. Very cunning.
Hmm. Yep, and hateful.
Hmm. Well, so if you guys have any comments on any of these conspiracy theories, please let us know. Email us. Uh, use our hotline number. We'll get you on the podcast that way. But I think there's a lot. Well, we'd like a lot of feedback from you guys on this. Do you
Absolutely.
believe it? Do you not? What do you do?
what,
So,
what do you do?
what do you do? Uh, any final comments from you, gents?
I just had one other one. I had heard in a prior conspiracy theory, not on this podcast, but that Obama was a lizard person. So maybe he was just going to Antarctica. He was covered in his Obama skin, but he was really going down there as a lizard person representative
Hmm.
to talk to the people, the lizard people that are in Antarctica.
I have no comment for that at all. No,
Oh,
I have nothing for you.
hey, that could be.
Hey, just throwing it out
No.
there.
Anything's
Just
possible.
Yeah,
Food for thought, man. If we can do Stargate, we can do lizard people. It's all good.
we could. I've seen some video actually where they show like people talking,
Yeah.
where they think they've actually slipped and changed back into a lizard person really quick and then back into a human.
Like,
Justin Bieber. We talked about that a
Yeah,
few
we did.
podcasts ago.
yeah. The Beebs.
Oh
Justin
man.
Bieber, he's probably related to Obama somehow.
You ever seen the movie They Live? Roddy Piper?
Yeah, love that
no.
show.
It's like that,
Yeah,
probably.
we just need sunglasses like that.
Dude, wouldn't that be awesome?
Scott, you need to watch it.
Have you not
Man,
seen
I
it,
gotta watch
Scott?
I have not.
Oh my gosh. Scott, you got to treat yourself to that movie. It's awesome.
I suck.
Dude,
Yeah,
you're going to love it.
Was that 90s? That was in the 90s.
That was 80s. 80s.
80s?
I saw it when I was, I think, 16. Yeah.
It's a good movie.
Boy, it's a great movie, man.
I used to like wrestling back in the day. I liked Roddy Piper.
Yeah, man, it's cool. He died of you have some kind of leukemia or something, didn't he? Something
Yeah,
wrong
that
with him.
sucked.
Some kind of bad cancer, but it might have been from steroid use and stuff too. I don't know. a lot of those guys roided up back in the day, you know.
Yeah.
Oh man, do you remember the Ultimate Warrior?
Yeah,
Dude, that guy was huge.
awesome.
Yeah, I think he's dead now too.
But yeah, I mean, big guys tend to die earlier anyway, but really big guys, especially guys that just, you can only push your body so hard for so many years, man. And then,
I've been bulking up, so this might be my last podcast.
Brian, you're going to live to be 100.
I'm safe forever.
You and Scott, man, you guys are puny. I'll be dead in 10 years.
I'm never dying.
Joke's on you,
whatever.
man. I'll have more fun.
Whatever. All right.
All right, guys. Thanks for listening this week. Welcome to our new listeners, and thanks so much for listening. Send us an email as to where you're listening so we can give you a shout out. You can now hear us on Amazon Podcasts. Welcome to all our listeners in Indonesia. Go to Our Different Take and our Facebook group page called ODT Nation. Go to ourdifferenttake.com and our Facebook group called ODT Nation. Please send us your comments, suggestions, complaints, or questions to show@ourdifferenttake.com. You can also call our voicemail hotline to submit questions or comment or really anything that you want. Just call 970-343-4594. Don't forget to subscribe on Apple Podcasts and look for us wherever you get your podcast from. We also have a YouTube channel called Our Different Take. Please subscribe and click on the bell so that you'll be alerted when a new podcast is released. If there is a certain subject you'd like us to talk about, please let us know. That's it.
Lizard people.
All right,
Lizard people.
I'm in.
Peace.
Bye.
Have a great one.